At Izutsu Printing, the boss is really blowing up at an employee for being late. She's super hot and is totally giving him a hard time for not being motivated enough. Our main guy, calm and collected, steps in and tells her it's time for the board meeting, promising he'll take care of the newbie. That's Kenichi Ishizumi, 37 years old. Meanwhile, the boss, Reina Izutsu, who's 24, snaps back that being late is a huge no. With that, she just walks away, brushing off the whole thing. Walking home, Ishizumi admits the president's right. Young people lack motivation, and Reina's a bit too strict. Taking a different route, he stops by a nearby park. To his surprise, he finds his boss drunk and crying, yelling that she wants to be a baby now. Being president is too much, and her team keeps messing up. Ishizumi asks what's going on and can't believe she's drunk since she never does that. It's strange to see her so vulnerable, obviously weighed down by stress. Then she spots him and starts drooling a bit, confusing him for some random guy from middle school. She calls him by a random name, and he just decides to pretend he didn't see anything weird. But then Reina starts unbuttoning her shirt because her chest hurts, and she shows off her huge figure. Seeing this, our guy quickly rushes over to cover up her. She starts to feel super drowsy, and he knows he can't just leave her like that, so he decides to take her home. Reina, getting deeper into her drunken state, begins to cry. She vents about how she's the president but feels like she has to act all tough, even though she's still young. It really bothers her that her team gossips about her. Plus, she regrets punishing them by making them do a cobra twist. She's got a short temper, but the truth is, she's really trying hard to keep her dad's company afloat. Listening to her struggles, Ishizumi chimes in, saying it's true she's young, but he admires her dedication to the company. He believes she'll lead them forward, and he's confident that someone will eventually recognize her hard work. Watching him being so understanding, she starts to think he might be flirting with her. In a bit of a ramble, she suddenly says that they just met and don't even know each other's names. So how does he get her so well? He looks surprised when he hears this. Then she goes on about how she wouldn't mind starting off as friends, which leaves him totally shocked with his jaw hanging open. He tells her to calm down a bit, but she keeps going, saying she might even like him. She gets uncomfortably close to him. She lets out a big sigh from all the drinking and crashes asleep next to him, who keeps telling her how hard she works every day. After that, he takes her back to her place. The next day, Reina calls out to Ishizumi and tells him to punch the newbie since he's 5 minutes late. She can't remember much from last night and wonders how she even got home. She thinks about that guy who said he'd always be there for her, but she can't recall who he is. She's curious if she'll bump into him at the park again today. At work, she's yelling at her employees, reminding them that work time isn't playtime. If they're not motivated, she suggests they should go swing on the playground instead. Some of the team feels intimidated, while others appreciate her energy, but Ishizumi just stares coldly. Taking over the company at just 24, she's trying hard to bridge the gap between herself and her staff. If everyone could just see her in that tipsy state, maybe they'd feel a little more connected. So she's freaking out on the employees about how they're gossiping instead of working. Then she tells everyone to get it together. Out of nowhere, the new guy shows up at the office, and Reina pulls her usual cobra twist move and starts choking him. Nah, no way, dude. She could end up with a ton of lawsuits. Fuming, she releases the newbie, and our guy just holds him up to check if he's alright. The newbie admits he's never been in a chokehold before, and it feels like something has clicked inside him. As Ishizumi heads back, he's still thinking about the boss, hoping she's doing okay. Out of nowhere, someone's heel smacks him in the face while he's near the park. It stings like crazy, and he thinks for a second that maybe he got shot. It's Reina again, acting all tipsy and spilling her thoughts. The new hires are steering clear, and the older staff isn't giving her much attention. Meanwhile, she's just goofing around on the swings and tossing her heels aside. Ishizumi wonders if she's stressed about the morning meeting when she's really just having a good time. He starts to feel like he's seeing something he shouldn't be. Then he calls out to her, and her face totally lights up when she realizes he's the same guy from yesterday. She runs over to hug him, saying she missed him a ton, and asks if he came to see her again today. She starts crying because she feels like everyone is just babbling about her behind her back, even though she's putting in so much effort. She asks if her shoes hit him earlier, but to him, it felt like a metaphorical bullet. Then she starts venting about her messed up company situation while swinging like a kid on a swing. And those cocoa melons of hers are showing some serious physics in action. From the employee's perspective, it's pretty weird that the founder's daughter is suddenly taking charge. But then Reina suddenly stops swinging, looking like something's about to happen. Ishizumi is freaked out, worried she's gonna throw up. Then she just starts crying, asking why her dad had to die. He's at a loss for words, and she's pouring it all out, saying she can't handle running a company. She feels she's not cut out for it, except maybe for putting people in sleeper holds. Ishizumi thinks things are really tough for her right now. With her dad gone, she feels tons of pressure. He calls out to her like a boss, promising that he'll always have her back. She looks surprised, but he keeps pushing with his motivational speech, saying he's not sure how much help he'll be, but he'll show up every night for her to vent. She takes it as a promise that she'll wait for him each day. Then he gives Ishizumi a nice push on the swing, but out of nowhere, she throws up, which totally freaks him out. The next day, when she calls out to him, she notices something weird about his head, and he brushes it off, saying he just bumped it. Today, our hot president seems a bit different. She doesn't lose her cool and just casually tells him to cut out the flirty chit-chat. Other employees notice it too. As she walks around, she can't shake off the nagging feeling about Ishizumi. Seeing his dark circles, she thinks he must be dealing with a lot. Since she feels there's still a gap between her and the employees that could hurt the company, she decides to start saying some basic greetings. But honestly, her mornings just freak her employees out more. The new hire notices her weird vibe too. Her attempts at greetings end up being a hot topic around the office. She even goes up to Ishizumi, flaunting her assets as usual, and greets him. He looks a bit unsure, caught between her two personalities, but eventually greets her back. Then, out of nowhere, another employee jumps in with good vibes and greets everyone. It's Chief Fujioka, and Ishizumi greets her as she walks in. But then, our hot president gives Ishizumi a death stare, probably out of jealousy. He can't shake off her bad mood. Later that night, he heads to the park where Reina is venting about her issues on a kid's panda ride. Ishizumi realizes she's feeling way worse than he thought. She's had a crazy amount of alcohol too. He checks in on her, asking if she's alright. She mentions that everyone keeps calling her ugly, but honestly, no one actually did. She's kinda serious about it, then goes on about this guy at her company who avoids eye contact when she says hi. Meanwhile, he gets cozy with the other cute girls at work. She's even thinking about firing him. He tries to chill her out, telling her it's probably not that he dislikes her. He points out that greetings among regular employees are usually more relaxed compared to how the president interacts with them. He believes her best trait is her ability to handle tension. If she's a new hire, she probably doesn't need to try too hard to fit in. He shyly compliments her boss, saying she has a really pretty face, which instantly brightens her up. She's young, but her determination is impressive. While she's sitting there with some weights from the milkers, Ishizumi mentions that he'll be the one to compliment her looks at this park. When he asks if that helps her out, she tells him to just apply for the job. Then she adds that she wants him to praise her on Line 2, which is a messaging app. They end up swapping contact info, and she playfully warns him that she might get mad if he doesn't reply quickly. She thinks it's cute that his username is also Zumi. Then she asks him his real name, which totally catches him off guard. If he spills, she might not share her vulnerabilities anymore. So he just goes with it and says his real name is Zumi too. That makes her super happy, and she hugs him tightly, telling him she'll be depending on him from now on. The next day at work, he gets a message from her to lift her spirits. He replies right away and sends a silly sticker. The newbie sees it and asks if she's his girlfriend, and he freaks out a bit, trying to play it cool. Meanwhile, their attractive boss notices the cute sticker and gets a little smile, but it doesn't last long because another employee butts in, saying she shouldn't be grinning at work and decides to check it out later. After heading back home, she's pretty stoked that Izumi replies instantly. Talking to him totally wipes away her work stress. During their chats, he suggests she should join everyone for lunch, so the next day at lunchtime, Reina pulls out her lunch too. While the others are chilling and enjoying their meals, she's awkwardly peeking in through the door. Our guy spots her and wonders if she's actually taking his advice. Things get a bit tense since she's giving them the side eye. The newbie is kind of freaking out about it. Ishizumi thinks about inviting her over and calls out for her to join them. She ends up joining the group with her bento, which Ishizumi had suggested she make herself. When she opens it, it looks like a total mess, like something out of a manga. Ishizumi thinks about tossing it, but our guy decides to give it a shot anyway. As he gives it a shot, he thinks it's ridiculously amazing, but then he ends up getting seriously sick. Seeing this, the newbie tries to flatter his boss and, curious to join in, asks her for any leftovers. Reina, really mad, yanks him by the head, and this time uses her iron claw technique. He tries to calm her down. Just then, Shinozaki shows up, noticing her boss having lunch in the break room. She's brought her own homemade bento, which makes our hot president totally impressed. Later that night in the park, our guy spots her drinking and figures out that she totally went overboard during her drunken shopping spree and bought a bunch of cooking stuff. She's really trying to feel like a cook, and when our guy sees her, it lights her up instantly. He's like, "What's all this?" And she explains how she had lunch with some coworkers and socialized a bit. But her bento came out all wrong. Her dad was super overprotective, so she never got the chance to learn to cook. She mentions there was only one guy who actually liked her cooking, even when it was a mess, so she decides to practice and whip up something good to prove him wrong. But then she quickly adds that she doesn't actually like that guy because he's stubborn and the complete opposite of Zumi. Our guy tells her he thinks it's awesome that she's challenging herself to cook and getting closer to her coworkers. That kind of compliment puts a smile on her face. She then asks if he can help carry all her stuff home, and he happily helps her out with everything. He assures her that she's making progress with her cooking as they head back. When she gets home and shuts the door behind her, she casually calls out to him, saying she caught him off guard, which totally freaks him out. She asks him to hang out for a bit, saying she has to return the favor sometimes. He's thinking that's a bad idea. One wrong move could ruin everything. Meanwhile, she's freaking out a little because it's her first time having a guy over. Just when he decides to leave, Reina pulls him in and starts giving him some soft squishes. She holds on to him tight and starts begging him to stay. Then she shows off some of her moves and manages to lock his arm in a deadlock. After a moment, she lets go, and he feels like he might lose his arm in the process. The room is pretty dark, and when she tries to turn on the lights, he stops her by grabbing her hand. Reina is confused at first, but he explains that the park was also dark. She gets it, realizing her Zumi might be a bit shy, so they decide to hang out in the dark. They end up sitting on the couch, and Reina starts to feel a little nervous. The dim light gives off a romantic vibe, and she notices him looking at her in a really cute way. She asks what his type of girl is, and he ponders for a moment, saying there's nothing specific. He mentions he likes strong-willed girls, which totally excites her because that's just like her. Feeling confident, she straightens up. She boldly asks about his favorite physical feature on a girl, but he brushes it off, saying he doesn't have a particular preference. Although her house is tidy, the kitchen is a mess from all the bento prep. Then he reveals he likes girls who are huge, even if they're a bit rounder, which makes her feel all warm and fuzzy inside and want to get closer. As Reina invites him to spend the night with her, he suddenly clutches his chest, overwhelmed by an unexpected pain. At first, it seems like guilt, a pang of conscience, but the sensation quickly intensifies, revealing itself to be a sharp, unbearable stomachache. The culprit? That awful bento he forced himself to eat earlier. Without a word, he bolts out of the room, the pain too intense to ignore. In his haste, he misses what could have been a pivotal moment between them. Left behind and confused, Reina tries calling him, but gets no response. That's when she notices his phone. He's forgotten it. Curious and concerned, she picks it up to see if she can figure out what's going on. At home, our guy can't find his phone and he's freaking out, worried he left it at his boss's place. He searches everywhere but comes up empty-handed, and he's stressed thinking about what would happen if she sees his notifications, like that would be a disaster. Thankfully, his phone's locked. If she catches sight of his notification and uncovers his true identity, he's toast. The boss will lose all hope in humanity, and the company will crumble like a poorly built house of cards. The next day, his boss catches him staring blankly at the building and asks what's up, and he gives an awkward response. She tells him to get to work. Just as he's about to let out a sigh of relief, he catches a glimpse of his phone snugly tucked away in her pocket. Cue the panic. He decides he'll just have to casually retrieve it later at the park. During work hours, he notices her just staring at his phone, which is super distracting for him. One of his colleagues, Yuko Kurokawa, nudges him to tell the president about the meeting as she's scared. He tries to convince her, but eventually just decides to help her. As the boss drifts off into La La Land, she can't help but feel a pang of sadness for not being able to message him since she's got his phone. She ponders over last night's events, contemplating her actions, and decides that an apology is in order. Izumi enters the office with the manager and calls to her. She responds with her second drunken personality, which totally freaks everyone out. Reina starts blowing up, super mad, and yells at him, warning that he heard nothing. She also pressures Kurokawa that she didn't hear anything either, prompting her to apologize. Later, she's hiding behind the bench at the park, totally embarrassed. He calls out to her, asking if everything's alright. She explains that she kinda came off soft in front of his older coworker. But he reassures her that her bashful side is actually pretty cute. Then he asks if she forgot his phone at her place. She jumps up from the bench, declaring she's the goddess of the lake and that she'll grant him a highball. He clarifies that he dropped his smartphone, which makes her duck back down behind the bench, blushing. She says it's too awkward to ask, but she wants something personal in return. She really wants to ask for something of his, even if it's just a small thing. But when she brings up something personal, he hands her his fountain pen, and that makes her so happy. After that, she gives him back his phone and explains she never checks it, and that he hasn't gotten any messages. She mentions that if he had a bunch of texts, she'd be worried, especially thinking there might be someone else. But then she figures out he doesn't have a girlfriend after all. They end up leaving the park, planning to meet up again tomorrow. Later at home, he's thinking about how he really doesn't have any messages at all. The only person he talks to every day is the old president, and he only does that for her happiness. The next day, he's right above her, spilling his feelings and saying he loves her. She mentions that she's craving a big long hug too, so it turns out it was just a dream, and she wakes up all panicked, trying to hug something. Then she gets up and takes a bath. Ishizumi is at the office, casually checks his messages, and ponders his relationship with his boss. It all began when she failed to recognize him in a tipsy state. Now he's sweating bullets, wondering if he can keep his secret under wraps much longer. Just then, the newbie pipes up, asking if he's texting his girlfriend and wanting to know her name. This totally freaks Ishizumi out, and he even yells out loud. He quickly tells the newbie he didn't see anything, and the newbie goes along with it. Later, the newbie mentions that he updated the cloud progress sheet. Ishizumi notices he hasn't been late recently and talks about how the president isn't that strict, so there's really no point in being late if there's no punishment. During their coffee break, he runs into the manager Kurokawa, who wants to hand over the meeting minutes to the president. He offers to help, but she brings up the president's smile from the other day and mentions how much more approachable the president seems now. Kurokawa feels like she needs to stop using people as a human shield against the president. So she heads off to chat with Reina. Reina is surprised as it's kind of wild because the manager has never talked to her directly before, but now she's finally opening up. Reina believes they can be friends. Then, out of nowhere, she cracks this super creepy smile that totally freaks the manager out. She ends up asking if she should be heading out. The truth is, the president wanted to keep the conversation going. But then Shinozaki shows up, bringing all her fun energy, saying it's the perfect time for lunch. Shinakawa asks the manager to join, but Kurokawa is skeptical that a strict boss, a girl junior, and an otaku have any common ground. All three of them head off to grab a bite, and our guy thinks the president hasn't really changed. Deep down, she's always been kind. She just has to deal with the pressures of running the company. At night, he can't help but think that Reina could really click with Shinozaki and the manager, and feels like his time here is pretty much done. As he spots her chilling at the park, she's just hanging out, wanting to at least look cute. He calls out to her, and she lights up, rushing in for a hug that feels like a full-on tackle. She asks what's up and shares that she had lunch with some girls from work, but totally flops in the conversation. He thinks of himself as such a wuss, but he's doing it all for her. She starts venting about how their chat turned into dreams, but it got messy because they were discussing their future goals at the company. Out of nowhere, she spills about a wild dream she had that morning, and now she's freaking out about it. He feels like she really needs to find someone she genuinely loves and be her real emotional rock. He jokingly asks if she's talking about that awkward dream about Zumi, but that just gets her fired up. She clamps down on his arm again, insisting she's not a pervert.